Okay, so this video is going to be kind of about what it was like while Star Wars was going on, the trilogy and stuff. I gave my first, you know, told you about my first time. Uh, and so, because a lot of people like to kind of romanticize the original trilogy and, you know, what it was like back then, and it's huge, and everybody was like, oh, Star Wars was like the awesomest thing, and we were just huge fans, and you guys are all so late to the bandwagon that you don't even really count. You're not an actual Star Wars fan unless you were there, man. You had to be there, man. Which I always hate that mentality. You weren't there, man. You don't know. It's like history repeats itself. There's so many experiences that even though everybody thinks they're completely unique or just like another experience that somebody else had, maybe it was something totally different. Maybe it was like 50 years ago. This big thing is like, no, man, nothing was like this, man. Nothing was. For the people at the time, that was like that. You don't compare them, but the point is the experience you have, not the statistical, analysis of exactly what the fundamental, you know, uh, structure and physics of the exact thing and the nature of it and all that. It's the experience. What did people experience with this, and how did people come away from it, and how did they feel about a certain thing? To me, that's the important thing because, like they say, if you forget history, you're doomed to repeat it. But to me, it's not about dates and names and places and stuff. It's really about what happened. Like, for example, I know this is everybody brings this up as a thing. Hitler's Nazi and all that kind of stuff. I don't have to know that the guy's name was Hitler or that it was the Nazi party or that they were the Jews that they were killing, or I don't need to know any of these little names and details and stuff. What I need to know is that one group of people rose to power and killed another group. They were made them scapegoats and were killing them and slaughtering them and doing these terrible things. The names are only relevant because of the people involved. And I don't want to say like my Jewish neighbor. I don't have one, but oh well, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you were Jew and that happened to the Jew. Yeah, of course it matters, but the point is, historically speaking, what we need to get from it is irrelevant as to who it happened to. We need not to have that happen again. We need to not let it happen again. So again, the whole point is experience. What is your experience with something? Not necessarily the dates and facts and well, I mean the facts obviously, but I mean the dates and specific times and people involved and that kind of thing. As far as what do we garner from that historical context. So, like I said, speaking back in the day, when Star Wars came out, it was pretty awesome. Let's face it. I don't know if I must have seen it in the theaters just because I was a huge Star Wars fan from the beginning. You know, not that I couldn't have been a fan without actually seeing it. I could have, but I remember collecting the toys and stuff. Like a lot of people, I mean, they were probably a little bit older and a little bit smarter about collecting. I was just a little freaking. I didn't know anything. I grabbed something, like popped its head off. It's wee. You know what I mean? I wasn't exactly going to keep them in the packages and really keeping them safe and all that stuff. That wasn't what I was about then. And it's a long story as to why I don't have all my toys. Not a really long story, but not really a point in this video as to why I don't have all my original stuff. As I collected all that, all the original Star Wars. I mean, it's not like I had a full set, but I had a lot of it. Not a majority, but I had a lot. Transformers, GI Joe, all that kind of stuff. I had that back in the day, and now it's all gone. And it's nobody's fault but mine. Like nobody, like I didn't leave my comics stored in a cellar or something. My mom got rid of them all or something. It wasn't like that. It's all me. Anyways, back then, and I'm trying to because a lot of this timeline in my head is kind of mixed up, and I don't really remember because some of the people in the that didn't happen. That and you're so full. You don't, it's mixed up. It's a long time ago. Like I said, if I remember what I had for lunch or dinner 2 weeks ago, I'm a happy guy. It's like holy crap, I remember that. So exactly when I'm not sure. I'm not going to give this as an exact timeline. Just my impressions of what I remember back then. So there was this thing called Bantha Tracks back then. It was like a little magazine that kind of let you know on the stuff that was happening. It seems that it came out before Empire Strikes Back, but it may not have. It may have been after. I do remember a lot of stuff like it was bantha tracks. Obviously, they were talking about the banthas. I remember there was that scene. Remember when Luke's looking through the viewfinder and you see the banthas down there, and they were sand people, and they became Tusken Raiders, and when they wanted to make them a little bit more, you know, less of a kind of a racist thing. Oh, they're sand people, not equating them with a real life kind of racism, but just the racism of generalization. I know they're people in the sand. They're sand people. They don't give a crap. And they're like, they're Tusken Raiders, man. It's not just some sand people. They're Tusken Raiders, man. I was like, oh, okay. So that kind of thing. It was some of the things, and I followed some of the Bantha track. I think I might even had a subscription for a while. I don't know. My parents probably got it. I mean, I was a kid. I didn't know how to do that kind of crap or what was going on. It's like this thing came, and I was like, yay! And then it wasn't there anymore. I was like, no, I guess I just go on. Enthusiasm for the movies was obviously there. We loved the stuff. We collected the toys. Read some magazines and stuff like that. Some people were probably a lot more into it at the time than I was, but like I said, I was a little kid. Everything was going on back then. I was a freaking kid. Everything was going on. It wasn't just Star Wars. So as much as I love that stuff, it was not like it is today. Not for me, if I can speak. Not for me specifically, but also like in general. Just the vibe of fandom around Star Wars wasn't the same back there. Generally speaking. Now, like I said, any specific person, I'm not going to say, oh, well, you weren't, because nobody. No, I'm just saying in general. We all loved it. We were all fans, but movies came, movies went. We wait for the next movie, and we were excited, but it wasn't like, oh, Star Wars, Star Wars, this. It was like, we talk about it every once in a while with our friends and stuff, but generally it was everything else, baseball, kickball, and whatever the heck you were doing. But and I remember because I was too young that the whole Empire Strikes Back reveal, Luke, I'm your father. As a kid, I just took it. I was like, oh, that's cool. It wasn't like, that's Luke's father, And some people really got that, but It didn't mean anything to me. I was like, is this okay? Sure, let's go with it. For a lot of people, I can't believe that, and I didn't really have that back then. And I think a lot of people were a little bit older and they really understood the whole thing. And me, I was just too young to really understand that. So it was just, hey, Darth Vader's the guy's father. I believe it. Let's move on. Okay. It was cool. It wasn't like, I don't care. Yeah, it sounds stupid. No, it's like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Let's see where this goes from here, though, was kind of my thought. And the other thing was, and a lot of people forget this, and I'll probably bring it up a little bit later, but everybody keeps bringing up lately, oh, the prequels, they really neutered, Darth Vader, and they totally took the wind out of him. He was this big bad dude, and everybody forgets. And they're like, oh, well, they always put that little, well, except for, it's not an except for. This was freaking huge back then, because I remember in The Return of the Jedi, when they finally unmasked Darth Vader. I remember there was such an uproar about, holy crap, you should never, ever, ever do that. It was terrible. And I know one of the big things was, I can't believe you made him human. That's so stupid. He shouldn't even been human. He should have been some, badass alien kind of a thing. And it's like, dude, he's Luke. And you didn't even think about it back then. I'm like, yeah, I guess. But nowadays, you kind of look back and you go, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard of. He's Luke Skywalker's father. I mean, even if you could do some interspecies kind of stuff, right? They have to be close enough that they made somebody who looked human. It can't be like, Gluglarg from Florbur 4, who's just a big pile of mush, and it's like, but he fits into this metal suit and kills everybody. You can't do that. It's Luke Skywalker's father, and it mostly makes sense that he was human, period. It's the thing that makes the most sense. And it's the most relatable to people, too. So, I remember that came out, that was a huge, people keep putting that down. Oh, what was it? No, it was huge back in the day. Everybody was so upset. That's when everybody really felt, oh man, you were totally nipped. And now they're like, it's just a common complaint now. Well, he was badass in that first one, man. And now he's like totally, no, dude, you're just making him into something he was not. And then when he was what he was going to become anyways, and what he really was, I really liked it, because back then, it really didn't mean a whole lot to me. It was just kind of like, well, duh, that's who Darth Vader is. But now, I really get more of a perspective In fact, when I watched 3 and then 4 in a row, like back to back, I think it's really kind of one of the best experiences because you really, and you got to see them like back to back, not one night and then the other, like just one into the other. I think you really get to pull a lot of Anakin Skywalker into Darth Vader, even in those first movies. I think it really gives him a lot more depth to it, even before they develop him in 5 and 6. I think in 4 you get a lot more development just because of not necessarily even 1 and 2. If you just watch 3 and then go into, I think it really helps a lot. It really deepens Darth Vader a lot more than just okay, dead. Because otherwise he is just the typical archetype bad guy. But anyways, that's kind of the first impressions of what it's like during the actual movies and when they were first coming out, and what it was like to be a fan back then. These are all general things. This is not specific. I'm not bringing up dates and places and stuff like that. So it's not going to be those kind of videos. But yeah, so it's kind of like that for the us fans who were back there. And then I think the basic thing to kind of end this video, because it's running a little bit over what I really want these videos to do, but a little bit isn't too bad. It died out. I mean, we were fans. We had the shirts. I mean, I have pictures of myself when I was little with a little Wicket the Ewok shirt. I loved the Ewoks back in the day. I was a kid. That's the whole point. I'm an adult now. They're like stupid. But you know what I mean? But then they died, and it was it. Did you see Star Wars? Yeah, it was great. Blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't like, oh, let's get together all the time. Let's watch Star Wars all the time, just over and over and over. We're going to collect all these things. It wasn't that. It was just, it was gone for the most part. Again, this is not a specific thing to, Joe over there who was like, dude, I totally love Star Wars. You just weren't a big fan. Of course I was a big fan, but there wasn't any more Star Wars. It was gone, period. Star Wars was gone. All you could do was lament the whole time. Anyway, so we were just we moved on. We still love Star Wars just like we love a lot of stuff that came out back then, a lot of movies and stuff. You didn't just sit there and devote your whole life to it back in the day. It wasn't like as much a religion. You didn't have everybody saying I'm a Jedi on there, taxes or whatever it is, claiming that their religion is Jedi back in the day. That developed a lot more with the resurgence. But again, I'm talking generalities, whatever, what I'm trying to say. Anyways, but yeah, so we'll end this here and we'll pick it up on the next video.